can't hear anything in my headphones, by the way. Just realized. There we go. We back. We back now. DP. DP. Let's go. Let's go. Podcast time. Show before the show.
Live.
We're live. The show before the show, ladies and gentlemen. You know how this goes. This is the time when we just spew nonsense before we actually get to the point of the podcast. It's beautiful. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Hi there. How are you? We got a good show for you today.
Hello, people.
Woo! He's back. DP in the saddle, son. I was just chanting DP before we went on, and so it's a choice to chant. Of all things, to chant. Oh, we're wearing the same shirt, Danny. I just realized. Wow, one of us should have changed. Here comes Ryan with his polo. Somebody's not cool, but that's all right. Not all of us can be awesome. There needs to be one in the group.
I'm awesome.
This guy.
He's got a handwritten list to help him out. Look at that. Look at this guy with his notepad.
Got my notepad.
That's Mr. Notepad.
We gonna do this.
Oh, man. That's good stuff right there. He's got the notepad. We're doing the top 5 UFC fights of all time, ladies and gentlemen, but that starts at noon, okay? That starts at noon.
This is called the show.
Before.
The show.
Boom. It's actually decently
We didn't even
recorded.
plan
No,
that.
we didn't plan that at all, but I like it. That should become a thing. And on the show before the show, we kind of just talk about nonsense and some things going on in our lives or something fun. So something fun that happened today that I want to share that could potentially start a conversation.
What's that?
We were going to go to lunch at this place called Shilling Hill Farms. It is delicious right down the street. It's like a little farm stand, all homemade stuff. Really, really good place, but it was closed.
It was closed.
Doesn't open till 11. So we went to Sheetz. So now I want to ask you guys, what is your go-to Sheetz order? What do you get at Sheetz? I got a grilled buffalo chicken sub, toasted, American cheese and cheddar cheese, buffalo and ranch, and black olives, and
Gotta overorder.
I did. I couldn't finish it at all. Black olives, Parmesan cheese, and now at Sheetz, you can add fried onion petals to a sandwich. So I did that. And ranch dust.
Tell them what happened.
Oh, they asked me, they said, do you want the onion petals on the side or on the sandwich? I was like, you can throw them on the sandwich. And they were like skeptical about it. I was like, doesn't seem that weird.
Bro.
Comes out, these onion petals are like 4 inches long a piece, dude. They're like the biggest onion petals ever. I'm like, oh, that's why they said that, because this doesn't make sense on the sandwich. Okay.
These are a side item.
I goofed. But then I also got mozzarella sticks. We're very healthy today. Very, very clean eating.
Extremely.
Ryan got tacos and chicken strips or snack wraps.
And I've never had any of those either. Like, I've never eaten any of that stuff.
You never had a snack wrap? Oh, my goodness.
No, not from there. No.
Well, yeah. From there is what I meant. When I was growing up in good old McConnellsburg, Pennsylvania, there were about 4 restaurants to choose from. I'm thinking, like, genuinely, I think there were 4 restaurants. I'm thinking in my head. 5. Sheetz was one of them. So I am extremely well versed with Sheetz menu. I know that thing inside and out. I've eaten, quite literally, I bet I've eaten 200 snack wraps in my life. Probably, maybe more, to be honest. But I would say putting the over-under at 200 is like a good betting line on that. It was always Buffalo Ranch. You don't even stray from that. But not bad. Get-Go's Buffalo tendies are way better than any Sheetz chicken strip it has to offer. That's all there is to it. Shout out Get-Go Buffalo tendies. They're awesome. If you guys haven't had them, you should get them. They're crunchy and good. Top 5. I was discussing with Danny Palm before you got in here, Ryan.
I was disgusted with Danny Palm before I got in here.
I heard. You should have heard poor young Daniel getting berated a second ago.
Poor young Daniel.
You can't. I didn't.
You're making things up now.
I know, but it's fun to pretend. How could you ever yell at Danny Palm? How could you yell at that guy? Just look at him. You can't yell at Danny Palm, dude. Get out of here. If you're going to try to yell at my man, Danny Palm.
Get out of time.
So I will preface actually, we'll just save all the top 5 UFC fight stuff. Preface. We'll just save all that. What's going on in Ryan's life right now? What is going on outside work with Ryan Middleton right now?
Well, okay, so Caden is gonna like leaving the parents' nest, going with uncle and grandma and grandpa to Atlantic City this weekend. So we have no Caden in the house this weekend. He's also become a young chef and has a cooking channel, Cooking with Caden on YouTube. And he's doing remarkably well. Like he uploaded some and I didn't really go on there. And then all of a sudden I went on there and there's like one with like 10,000 views. And I'm like, how did that happen? So we're going to have Caden teach Hunter how to do YouTube.
Yeah, for real. We need it.
Yeah, get him on.
We
that.
need dude. He
He's
should just
good.
run it. Don't teach me. Just let him run it.
Get her done.
Gazda 94 up in here. What up, dude? Nice to see you again. Noah's Ark 19 shouting out Danny Palm.
Shout
Let's
out
go.
Cheeseburger.
Shout out Cheeseburger.
No, yeah, that's Noah's nickname.
That's beautiful. It's a great nickname.
So that's the Caden update.
That is awesome. Caden's the man.
Logan is still the middle child, so that I don't have anything else to say about him. Austin, on the other hand, no, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
I have something to say about Logan.
What's that?
Puberty. It's happening.
Dude,
The last event, dude, he grew like 6 inches since the last time I saw him, like, and his voice is starting to crack. And so I'm like, dude, what's going on, Logan? What's
he's
up?
14, man.
Yeah.
He's a big boy. He's a freshman.
It's awesome.
He'll be a freshman now. Yeah, and then Austin will be a senior.
Penn State. You guys just visited Penn State?
Just visited Penn State. Checked out the scene there. They give you like this tour. Not the greatest tour ever.
Ooh.
Like the actual tour, like themselves, like, yeah, tour guides could. I mean, so they have different groups, right? And I'm gonna this will be my quick little vent. It really annoyed me. So they have like a bunch of people in a room, auditorium style seating, and like prospective students and a parent or two, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then they break that group up into like 6 groups. Well, two of the like the leaders, whatever they're called, weren't there, so they had to put 6 groups into 4, so they were like larger groups. But like we'd start walking and there's a large group following behind them, and so they have like a megaphone, or not a megaphone, but like a speaker on their hip, and like we couldn't hear our one, but like the one behind us was like right up behind, and it just made everything distracting. So yeah, it was just, the school's awesome, but
is it though?
Oh yeah.
Is it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No doubt about it.
Are you just clouded by your love for Penn State?
No, the school's awesome, dude. There's nothing. That's literally the best place on earth. It's awesome.
Might have to. Dan, is this working on 247 Live for anybody? It's not working for me. Did we change the stream key, Danny?
Yeah.
All right. I don't know what's going on there, so we need to figure that out. But it is working on Instagram and Facebook, so that's a good spot. Yeah, Andrew Paula said wrong to Penn State. I agree. Not sure. It's not even like a lot of people from my high school went there and stuff, so I just wanted to be a contrarian and dislike them because everybody in my hometown loved Penn State. So obviously,
delete it off here and add it back on just to try.
I would try that. Just
the stream is currently not active.
Just make sure the stream key got updated. Yeah. That's the only other thing it could be. So the good news is most people, I think, watch on Instagram anyway. So we're not dead in the water here.
But does an alert go out?
Not yet. I was about to send it at noon, but I'll hold off until we get it figured out. But we are going to rank the top 5 UFC fights of all time, and that's going to be super fun. And I'm very excited to see everybody's list. We haven't peeked. Well, I think you and Danny shared, but I don't know anything about your lists.
You don't know anything about me.
You know nothing about mine.
You don't. Either, you just don't care.
Number 1, Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis. Number 1 fight of all time.
Wrong.
Best.
Number 1 fight of all time was.
What's the worst fight of all time?
I mean,
Derek Lewis versus Ngannou.
Yeah, I mean that's why I said that. Like that's the one that comes to mind for
yeah,
me.
nothing happened.
Especially given the hype and the expectation of that one. Do you remember?
It's 12 o'clock.
Ooh,
Welcome to the 247 Combat Sports Podcast.
Woo! We're back. We are podcasting and stuff, ladies and gentlemen. If you are on 247 Live, we are actively trying to figure out. You're not going to hear this, so why am I even saying that we're figuring it out? Because you will never hear me say this. But we are
back.
So we'll see what's going on there. I really, I'm not sure. That's not good, but something's happening.
If you're watching on 247 Live, don't.
How are you? If you're watching on 247 Live, how? Yeah, it's the stream key, Danny Palm, because I can see in the back that the Meat Bucks podcast has tried to publish twice again. So we just need to swap out that key. We'll get that figured out. Ryan, can you carry this show for a second?
Oh, I can carry it.
Thanks,
I
Ray.
already do. Nothing. Oh, I'm frozen. Did you ever see that episode of the Brady Bunch where Cindy goes on TV and she's on a quiz show and like she's totally comfortable. She feels great. She's so excited. And then the moment the camera red light turns on, she completely freezes. The whole show, she's just completely frozen.
There you go.
That's me. Not really though. But I will tell you, the last show we had at Brawl in the Berg 22. So one of the things that we do during the show is we try not to have like dead space for the intermission. We try to put something on. Well, unbeknownst to me, we hadn't really talked about it, but during the intermission on Brawl in the Berg 22, Hunter told the producer that we weren't going to have any live thing there. I didn't know that. So I reported there like I normally do. And he said in the ear set, like, Hunter told me we weren't doing this. And I was like, well, I hate there being just dead air. Like, so I said, well, I'll just do something. And so I sat there and we did something.
It was you and Dylan.
Dylan came by and I snagged him and we were just talking on the air. Just to avoid like dead air. So it came time to finish, like for the start of the end of the intermission to end, and Ethan Goss came back, but Ryan Kavanaugh did not come back. Like he didn't hear the bell that we were going to get started again. So I was sitting there with Ethan and like I'm looking around for Ryan and trying to like pretend like I could do that job. And I wasn't really trying though. I was more like, should I just get up right now and go find Ryan? Or like, and that's what's going through my head as I'm trying to, think about that. And then Ethan was like, dude, you were so bad at that. And I was like, dude, I wasn't like, well, not that I'm good at that, but I also was more thinking I should probably just get up and find him.
Yeah.
So
that's not a bad idea.
So that was my Cindy Brady moment. I think it was Cindy Brady, but anyway.
I can't even name them. Marsha, obviously.
Marsha, Jan, Cindy.
Jan. Yeah, Jan is definitely.
Peter, Bobby, and Greg.
Nice. Big Brady Bunch guy.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, it was just pop culture. You had to.
Yeah, everyone watched it. I mean, now I was the age to watch it.
Right. What was your growing up show, Danny Palm? What was your jam growing up?
Dude, I was a dork. Like I was like a Disney kid.
Some things never change.
You got me there.
You got me.
Hey, you throw me a softball, I'm gonna try to swing.
Yeah, we swinging. We're about to be swinging on the top 5 UFC fights of all time. It's past noon. We can get started. So I'm going to preface the whole discussion with this.
Yeah. How did this discussion go down?
All we know is the criteria we have is top 5 UFC fights of all time. We did not say that context matters. We did not say that it has to be a back and forth fight. We did not say that the stakes of the fight matter. We just left it totally up to our interpretation of what makes a great fight to us, and then rank our top 5 within our hearts. So these are genuinely like our top 5 best, and I'll only speak for myself. These aren't my top 5 favorite necessarily. They kind of also are, but top 5 best, and for various reasons. As we pick, we'll explain our picks. Some surprises, I bet.
Well, and
Yeah.
so like part of it for me was like it didn't necessarily have to be the best fight. Like if you're analyzing like the skill level being totally equal, and like there's a lot of factors when you figure that out. And I guarantee you there's actually like better fights like that John Fitch might have been in or someone like that are like very even or something like that, but not exciting. But so I think here's the thing: the best fights like are also some of the most exciting, but maybe not the best fights.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's hilarious that you picked John Fitch as your example
Because I was trying to think of someone who was the least exciting
boring.
person
You're,
ever.
you're right.
He
on the
literally
money.
lost his job at the UFC for not being exciting. It wasn't because he wasn't good.
He's very good.
Yeah.
He was the Colby Covington of that era without any personality.
Well, I mean, part of the Colby
Like
Covington was like, we're going to cut you,
Mhm.
and then I'll just be crazy then.
And it worked. Good for him.
I mean, I think he's like I think he's taking to who he is, and we always say turn it up to 10. I think he's taking who he is and turning it up to like infinity.
Way past. Yeah, way past 10.
Did you guys see he's making a run in the World Series of Poker?
No, but that's
Really?
pretty hilarious.
Is that's happening now?
Yeah, I guess.
Wow, that's great.
So
I had no idea.
Is it, but like, so they do the final table like live. So is it like everything else ended and they're just the final table's all that's left, or is it like in the middle of it right now?
I haven't watched any of it. I just saw something on social media that was like he's positioned to make a deep run. He's got like over 400K in chips,
so it's like legit happening right now. That's interesting. That's good. That's awesome.
I'm going to do a random name generator to decide who goes first. But
are we doing one pick first, like number 5?
Yeah, we're going to start at 5. So we will have honorable mentions also, but they'll be at the end, because my reasoning when I was thinking about this,
we don't want someone's honorable mention to be said that someone else's top 5.
Right. So we might like spoil somebody's top 5 by picking one of those. All right. So I've got Danny Palm, Hunter, and Ryan in the name generator. We are spinning. Let's go. It's spinning. It's spinning. It's spinning. First up is Danny Palm.
Who's second?
I knew it.
I don't know. That's a good question. Oh, you can remove him and spin again. All right. Hang on. So Danny Palm's first. Now it's down to me and Ryan. Ryan second. Boom. I'm
Save the worst, or I mean the best for last.
The best and the worst, baby.
I feel like Logan right now.
Right? Yeah, you're the middle child. Nice. Are we gonna snake draft it? Like I'll do 2 in a row.
2 in a row. Yeah. Okay.
All right,
let's snake it. Let's do a fantasy snake draft.
Fantasy snake draft.
So wait, I'm just saying number 5.
You're just saying number 5 right now.
I think also for the first one, you can give a little dialogue about your process and like how you
sure
how you determined like what you were gonna do.
All right, so I changed my list last minute. I had a different fight at number 5 yesterday that I told Ryan about, and then I moved one of my honorable mentions to number 5 just based off of like I remember thinking back watching this fight, and I was going crazy, and I was amped up, and I was really nervous for one fighter in particular. All right, so number 5, best fight of all time, UFC 202. McGregor versus Diaz 2.
Okay. Yeah. Super solid pick. And
I really wanted McGregor to win. I was real nervous. It was a great fight. It was back and forth. It
was very close. That was the type of fight where like if you're objectively watching it, you're like, this is a draw.
Yeah. Was it a majority decision, by the way? Did one judge have a draw or something? I feel like I
I
remember
think
that
I
happening.
think it was. Yeah.
Watching it, I felt like neither one of these guys won.
Yeah.
Like this is a draw.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just how I felt, but without scoring individual rounds.
Yeah. Yeah. Great pick, Danny Palm. Can't even poke holes in that one.
As always, Danny Palm comes through. I want to talk a little bit about like my process, right? So, as we talked about, like the top fights and what we thought were the top fights, I made the decision that like, well, if it's my top fight, like my top 5 UFC fights of all time, then it's like my experience matters, right? So there are fights that I know were great fights, but maybe I didn't see them live, or maybe I haven't seen them yet. And so I didn't even consider those. I considered my experience. And so because it's my list.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that had a lot to do with it. So my number 5 UFC fight of all time is Kama the Death Star Worthy versus Devontae Smith.
Oh man, that's awesome. That is awesome.
Was there live in person in California with Kama's wife and family, and crew, and I mean, it was the biggest upset that year in UFC. It headlined the non-pay-per-view portion of the card, and it was shortly after we started 247, and Kama fought for us twice, got the call, 4 days notice. We flew out there, made like last minute made plans, like I wanted, and it was absolutely exhilarating. And it was on a card that was UFC 241 was an absolute banger of a card. And it was just a great weekend and really a feel-good story for all involved.
Dude, I hate how much I like that pick. Not necessarily, of course, that was an incredible moment for Kama and for Pittsburgh MMA and for the scene and everything. Like everybody remembers that. But I love your criteria. Like I love picking weirder picks. Like that's not on anybody's top 5 UFC fights of all time, except for yours. Like, let's be honest. It's like,
well, maybe Kama's.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. Except for a very select few that care that much. But to me, and my list will reflect some of this. Some of them are like more standard picks. But the beauty of MMA is that moment that it can create. And that's what I try to capture with my picks. Like one of my criteria was, if I don't remember where I was when I was watching it, it wasn't that important. Like I can, all 5 I picked, I can remember what I was eating, what I was drinking, who was with me. Like that mattered to me in this pick. So definitely I wanted to be influenced by like how it made me feel at that time. So they're all like kind of, you had to be there picks, but for different reasons.
Well, just so you know, you're still young. You're still a decade plus younger than me. As you get older,
yeah,
that criteria will narrow a little bit because
you can only remember 5 fights.
Well, no, because I can remember them all and do all that, but like who I was with, don't remember that anymore. But yeah,
that's fair. That's very fair. So all that said, to start off with this one at number 5 for me, UFC 206, Cub Swanson versus the Korean Superboy Duo Choi. I watched it in an airport. I was waiting on my flight to board, and I was coming back from a trip for Flow Combat, so I was fully in the thick of caring about the UFC and covering it and everything. Watching it on my phone in an airport, like losing my mind. I'm like, these people think I'm nuts, like for sure. But just absolutely losing my mind watching that fight.
I'm sorry. I was trying to answer. My wife was trying to call me, so I was trying.
Denise, don't you know we're podcasting?
Yeah,
this
come on, Denise. So I missed the pick.
You missed the pick.
Yeah, totally missed it.
Cub Swanson versus Duo Choi, UFC 206, banger. This one, I will say, number 5 on my list. Like the rest, I pretty much locked in. This one was hard for me to pick a number 5. It was really hard for me to kick some of these out, but they did, and this one made it because again, the moment, like. just being that addicted that I'm pulling it up on my phone in an airport before my flight boards and just like losing my mind silently silently as possible.
That's a fight I would never pick. Like,
do you remember it?
I would never pick that for number 5,
Dude.
for sure.
Oh, for higher than 5. All right. Oh, wait, I have to pick again. I have to also give you number 4. We're snake drafting this. So number 5, Cubs wants to do a Choi. Number 4, UFC. This is, well, I won't even say that yet. We'll keep the mystery. UFC 236. Kelvin Gastelum versus Israel Adesanya for the interim middleweight championship. Dude, first off, I forgot that was a title fight. Totally forgot that was a title fight.
Kelvin Gastelum fought for a title.
Also,
did he make weight?
Well, yeah, is it middleweight? So thankfully, yes. This one was headlined by Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier. And this fight was so good that everybody forgets the Poirier-Holloway fight was on that card. Like, this is the fight everybody thinks about. Fight of the night, fight of the year contender. It was bonkers. Like, I will never forget. Izzy almost submitted Kelvin Gastelum with a triangle. And it was just like, whoa. Because this was peak Izzy's rise. Like, this was his title shot. He was this undefeated stand-up juggernaut.
Was this a vacant belt?
It was an interim belt at the time, yeah, because I think Whitaker was injured. So it was just this crazy moment for Izzy to finally prove that he's got what it takes to become the next guy. And Gastelum, he's always been good, but never title guy. Just hurt him so many times. Like, they were just hurting each other. Everything they hit each other with was hurting each other, and neither one would go down. Neither one would quit. And then Izzy eventually almost submits Kelvin, which was just like, whoa, wait, he's a kickboxer. He doesn't know how to do anything on the ground. And then, like, legit almost submit him. Just bonkers fight. So that's my number 4. Love it.
Sweet. My number 4 is it's actually like, this is part of my criteria. Like, it's not this great fight. It just was like one of the best moments. And it was Matt Serra versus GSP.
Dang.
This is like one of those things I remember. I'll always remember that moment. Like, I was literally not a big GSP fan. I wasn't even looking forward to the fight because he was just gonna like smother another person. And I was at home. My wife was sleeping. We had like young kids. Everyone was asleep. I was in my living room just watching it. And it was like, I went nuts, like by myself, like running through my house, like trying to be quiet, like wanting to share the moment with someone and being alone. It was absolutely, it was just a crazy moment.
Yeah. Yeah. No, the moment. Yeah. Again.
And the eight, times favorite, like that big upset. Like, Sarah really didn't have a chance. The skill level was not comparable. It was complete anomaly that he was able to win.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect example of how anything can happen in MMA right there. That fight, that's the one.
It was so fun.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
that was a moment.
Being someone that wasn't a fan of necessarily either, but like, you have this guy that's like just dominates everyone and it's like, I'm not impressed by your performance. And it was just, I mean, Luke Payson would be livid right now.
He would be. He's somewhere just steaming, even if he's not watching. Like,
I know.
GSP sensor went off and somebody's talking bad about
someone. Hope he doesn't find out it was me.
All right. Danny Palm, you got back-to-back picks now.
All right. So number 4 for me, I didn't see this fight live, but I remember where I was when I did watch it. So this was kind of like, I was in high school, and this was like before I was really into like MMA or UFC, really. Like, I was mostly a wrestling guy. But one of my boys, Paul, he was real into MMA back then, and he showed me this fight, and it's an instant classic. And like, when I think of, like, if someone were to ask me like, oh, like, could you show me an old UFC fight? Like, this would be the first one I would show someone. UFC 125, Frankie Edgar versus Gray Maynard 2.
Yeah. As soon as you said 125, I already knew where that one was going.
See, you guys remember that stuff. I have no idea. No.
And then-
Dude,
oh.
insane pick. If you guys have never seen Edgar Maynard 2, then just leave.
No, I forgot. I forgot I was up again. So number 3, I remember I was watching this with all of my buddies. It was just a crazy ass fight. I believe it was UFC 248, Weili Zhang versus Joanna.
Nice.
And, like she, Joanna had the hematoma on her head afterwards. She like looked like an alien.
Nice.
Like that was a classic.
Love it. Love it. Somebody actually commented earlier, give me Joanna versus Zhang Weili. So there you go. Danny Palm gave it to you. He's a man of the people. You asked for it, and he gave it to you.
We just got a comment. I'm calling the police if I don't hear Prochaska versus Teixeira. No.
I mean, you're not.
I-
You're
no.
not going to hear it from me.
Not gonna hear from me either. Call the police.
Call him. See,
Yeah.
this again, this is what's so fun about this is that clearly there's like eras of fandom. Like I was telling Danny Palm, this is going to spoil kind of the rest of my list, but not really. I was telling Danny Palm, like Kelvin versus Izzy is the most recent fight on my list. Like that's the newest fight, and it's still 5 years ago.
I thought like I don't remember that.
Yeah,
fight. Because like most
You
of
were
my
247
memories
existed. So,
exactly.
yeah, I know.
Most of my memories are from before that.
Yeah. And that's not to say I did see Yuri and Teixeira. It's real good, but it still wouldn't beat the 5 that I picked. It really genuinely wouldn't, but it was great. I mean, it was. But so much of the context, like, I don't know. You'll see. We'll play out the rest of our list and then continue to discuss. So we've got that.
All right.
I just
So
got a text from Isaac Greeley. What up, Isaac? What up, dog?
is he texting about this? He's not listening.
No, he's not listening. What do you think he listens to our podcast, dude? We're not nearly cool enough for that. I wish.
All right.
All right, Ryan, number 3.
Number 3. So I'm the only one who has had like any type of like Pittsburgh connection to this list. Well, let's continue that Pittsburgh connection.
Oh my.
Do you know?
I have
Do
my,
you know?
Do you want to hear my guess of what you're going to say?
I know.
I would love to hear your guess because I think you're wrong.
I don't think you can pick comma twice, so I'm going to say it's Garbrandt Cruz.
And you'd be wrong.
Okay, let's hear it.
So I'm taking Czech Congo and Pat Barry.
Okay, I was thinking the wrong kind of Pittsburgh.
Boom!
connection. Yeah.
Bro,
Yeah.
if you're an MMA fan and you were live in the building, that is a moment that was like so ridiculous. If you've never, this is like UFC on Versus 4 way back in the day. Half of you, when I say Versus, you don't even know what I'm talking about, but it was
That's so true.
such a banger, like back from the dead, Czech Congo. Unbelievable. It's
Man.
unbelievable that the fight wasn't stopped. And then like you're instantly like the whole fight was unbelievable. If that was a higher stakes fight or like a pay-per-view fight or like, dude, that's a classic.
Dude, yes, I'm upset that I didn't think about that one. Although I'll say I probably wouldn't have included it, but it would certainly be an honorable mention. If the list was best 1-round fights ever, easily.
See, I'm
easily.
more stuck on
moments. The moment was insane. Since you love moments, you're gonna love my number 3 pick. Conor McGregor versus
Jose Aldo.
Jose
Yeah,
Aldo.
I like that.
Dude, listen.
12-second fights. If 12-second fights are your criteria,
13 seconds. 13. Dude, I can't say it without, if you weren't there, you will never understand. Like, period. If you did not follow the lead up and the months and months of trash talk and the world tour press conferences and that event being built up to be the biggest event ever, which it was. And this fight made Conor. Like, he was already a big star. Don't get me wrong. But this one took him from big UFC star to immortal, what he is now.
I mean,
like,
what he did was he picked on the baddest guy there was and then beat him with pure ease.
13-second flatline knocked him out. Everybody. So this is the part 2 of this is that for me, Everybody talks about who's the featherweight GOAT. Is it Aldo? Is it Holloway? Is it Volkanovski? It's Conor McGregor. He never lost at 145. He knocked out Aldo, who everybody else will say is their featherweight GOAT. But when they fought, Conor beat him in 13 seconds, so I can't get down with that. Conor also beat Max Holloway, by the way, earlier in his career. Everybody forgets about that fight. Completely dominated him. He never fought Volkanovski. Their paths never crossed. But if they did in that era, I have a feeling Conor would have taken care of him. So not only did it prove that, and listen, I'm genuinely not like a Conor McGregor fanboy. I like him. I like what he did for the sport and everything.
You just like him,
but
wrecking buses.
Yeah, I was there. Dude, I was covering that show when that happened, by the way. Insane. That was a crazy moment. But all that is to say, yes, the fight was only 13 seconds, but it was so much more than that. It literally established Conor as the megastar that we all know him as and set off. It proved what could be done in this sport on a completely new level.
It proves that, 13 seconds can matter.
Can change your life.
Like, just because it's only 13 seconds doesn't make it not worthy.
Yeah. I wasn't sure whether to say my wife or your wife's name. I'm like, I don't know which one.
I'm not saying any names.
They're both weird if I say it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
don't you have number 2 now?
Pick again. Wow, leading us off, number 2. I can't even build this one up. It's not going to surprise anybody at all. Anderson Silva versus Chael Sonnen, Part 1, UFC 117, August 7th, 2010. In terms of being a great fight, not really. Chael dominated all but 20 seconds of this fight. So it was very one-sided until it wasn't. Anderson Silva, last minute, triangle armbar, and Anderson was completely invincible at that time. So you thought you were watching the downfall of the GOAT, of somebody who nobody was even ever close to beating in the UFC. And Chael was just doing it with ease, which this also had an element of Conor Jose lead up trash talk, so much hype, so much talk, so much everything. And then Chael actually delivered on everything he said he was going to do. And speaking of remembering where you are, I was a big Anderson Silva fan. My dad was a huge Chael Sonnen fan. We were watching with a group of like 7 to 8 people, and my dad the whole time just kept looking at me like, he did what he said he was going to do. My dad must have said that 400 times throughout the fight as Chael was just dominating Silva. So needless to say, when Silva slapped that submission on, really big moment for young Hunter in the trash talk with his dad game. my dad literally commented he did what he said he was going to do. Probably it's on a delay. He probably commented that before I said it. That's awesome. I love it. So he clearly remembers that too. So yeah, amazing moment. But again, the Anderson Silva story just wrote another epic chapter there. But super sad for Chael too. You know, Chael has that bridesmaid tag his whole career, and
it all made up. He got a draw out of the deal.
Yeah. I thought it just ended that round.
No, I'm saying like in the boxing match recently, he's gotten a draw out of it.
Wow, right? Yeah.
The trilogy.
I totally forgot about that. But it did lead to the arguably one of my favorite Chael quotes, arguably the best, when he said, I thought tapping out just ended the round. I knew I was up 4-0. I thought I was just going to win 4-1. Epic.
That made my honorable.
Nice. Didn't actually make the top 5. All right, so that's my number 2, Silva Sonnen, Part 1.
All right, my number 2. Now, you know, I'm all about moments, right? And this was an actual great back and forth fight. Wasn't the most technical looking back on it, but it was probably the most important fight in the history of the UFC. Griffin Bonner, absolute slobber knocker, like fun fight. And it's the fight that made the UFC actually like profitable, and it made the UFC what it is today. It single-handedly carried the UFC into like mainstream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, in terms of history recognition, nobody will ever deny that one. It's in the UFC Hall of Fame. Yeah, great pick. Great pick. Impenetrable.
Danny
Palm gets to do 2 and 1.
Yeah,
Okay.
Danny Palm gets to be the first to expose their number 1.
So my number 2 is not as exciting because it was already talked about, but Kelvin Gastelum versus Adesanya.
Nice.
It was just an awesome fight, and my one friend, I call him Quint, but that was the first fight that he had ever seen, like UFC fight ever, and I was just
Spoiled.
like, dude, like you got to watch this with me right now, and he was just like, all right, like okay, and I like have it on my computer. You just like watched one fight, and he was hooked after that, like every event.
If that's where you start, you're going to be hooked.
Yeah.
Like that's awesome.
I mean, it's just like made me a little sad. Like
that you missed it?
he admits he only has one friend.
Yeah,
Danny, like you're a popular guy. Like how?
And then number 1. So my number 1 pick, I remember I was watching this one with all of my friends and like the stare down before the 5th round with the UFC 189 Lawler versus McDonald 2. That was my favorite UFC fight of all time. I like when I was thinking about this list, like that was the first one that popped in my head. And like honestly, for me, like there's not like it's like pretty far away from anything else. Like that was, in my opinion, the craziest fight ever.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the one, isn't it, Ryan? What do you think?
I mean, so it's about experience, and I missed that fight. I did not see that fight live.
Possible.
I didn't. I it wasn't. Yeah, I didn't see it. So
insane.
That did not make my list.
Oh man,
it's on my it's on my honorable mention.
Okay,
but
all right.
It's about the experience, and the experience. I remember exactly where I was, and it's no longer there. But this fight, I watched, and I said out loud, I could watch this all night long. Like it was just that good. If the names were bigger and the stakes were higher, everyone would have like. But these are both good guys. But you already said it, Dong Ho Choi and Cub Swanson, and absolute like. When you just take a look at fun, exciting, like give it your all, like, you know, you remember the BMF moment where they pointed in the,
it was like
they did that the whole time. It was absolutely crazy. And it just, you know, I don't know. It's just such a fond memory of watching something and knowing like I'm watching something super special right now.
Yeah.
And they're probably other than like of the names on this list that aren't tied to Pittsburgh, they're probably the least famous. Mm-hmm. I say if this actual fight was Chandler versus Gaethje or whatever, like this would be the
best of all time. Everybody would say
absolutely.
That. Yeah.
It was crazy good.
That was similar to Gastelum Adesanya. Like, since you haven't seen that one, you need to watch that. So it was like that with bigger names.
Yeah.
It's kind of exactly what you're saying. Obviously I had that one number 5. I think that fight was incredible. My number 1 is Danny Palm's number 1, Lawler versus McDonald Part 2. The only things I'll add besides the fight itself, besides the stare down, a couple elements that also make me love this fight. If you think of UFC 189, that's the fight you think of. Like, that's what everybody remembers from that card. That was the main event, was Conor McGregor versus Chad Mendes. It was so good that it made you forget that Conor was on a card, and was also a title fight. I totally forgot that Lawler defending his title.
Wasn't Mendes a late replacement though?
Yeah. It was supposed to be Aldo. Not only a title fight for Lawler. So Lawler was defending his belt in that fight, which I forgot. Rory was up on every scorecard before Lawler finished it. So if Rory could have just survived, he would have been the champ. Instead, he lost and was never the same for the rest of his career. Was never really Rory McDonald again after that.
Well, Rory
Crazy.
and you're gonna Danny had to step out, so Hunter, you can pretend like you're talking
Okay.
right now because the camera I think is probably on you.
Oh.
So Rory McDonald was like supposed to be the next like GSP, right? He was supposed to be, he was this young phenom that was like, you know, I don't know, but he never like reached that. And he would be a guy that like, I don't know how old he is. He's probably like 40 now, but like
Rory?
he's been, yeah.
Maybe, yeah. I'd be surprised if he's that old though.
Oh, see, and that's where I thought like it would be a long career at this point.
He's only 34.
Wow,
That's crazy.
That is crazy. He was young, like he's been gone from the UFC for so long that like I don't know. He's one of those guys that you just wonder like what happens, what would have happened had he reached his potential? Because I think his potential is very high.
Yeah, I mean, everybody always talked about him as the next GSP, which was a very easy comparison given the Canadian ties and the phenom qualities he had. But as a fighter, he wasn't very similar to GSP, really.
No, not
at all. But yeah, that fight, the fact that you missed that, the reason I said, what, you missed that live is because it was on the McGregor versus Mendez card. So really, I was like surprised you missed that card.
I saw McGregor Mendez. I don't know. I didn't say I didn't see McGregor Mendez live.
Well, I know, but it was the same card. So if you saw it, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You're probably watching the whole card.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it just has to do with my memory. Okay, well, we can go over some of the
give some of your honorable mentions.
So Gaethje Chandler, I think so that's like a special honorable mention because that fight in and of itself wasn't like extra super special, but those two collectively, they're like fights are all extra special. And so like there's just a, if you had to throw two guys on there, like I would pay to see that fight all the time too. I had Lawler McDonald. I had Silva Sonnen, and I had the only one that's on here that we didn't talk about today. Chuck versus Tito.
Wow, that's not what I thought you were going to say.
Was a big look. So you got to remember, like back in the day, like there was zero mainstream stuff except for Chuck and Tito had a little bit. But Chuck started like building up this thing, and Chuck became very mainstream. And then there was the storyline behind it. They were both managed by Dana White prior to the UFC being bought out by Zuffa. And so they were friends. And if you go back and look at footage, you can see they're in each other's corners and they were friends, but they weren't really friends. So they were kind of friends by association, but not like true friends. And they used to spar each other, and you can literally watch if you get a chance to watch the documentary done about this fight. Like it's pretty awesome and just very, very special. But this was like one of the first mainstream type of fights. I think it was UFC 41 or something like that. But it was awesome.
Yeah. Chuck Tito, fantastic pick. Some honorable mentions I had. When I said there are no recent fights, the one that made the strongest push for it that I eventually did not go with was Gaethje Holloway. And the only reason I didn't pick it is because really Max just beat the shit out of him the whole time and then punctuated it with the best moment.
Yeah,
in UFC
he definitely
history.
was winning.
Yeah, it wasn't like a competitive, fun fight, really. It was just like, wow, Max still got it big time.
Well, and it's like, it surprised me in how he did it. Like he did it playing Gaethje's game.
Completely. Yeah, I mean, it was more just Max styling the whole time. So to me, it didn't meet what I would consider a great fight. But if the list was best UFC performances of all time, it's probably number one. Like, I can't think of a better moment than that.
McGregor too.
Yeah, that would be number two.
Moment, yeah.
So I also had McGregor Alvarez as an honorable mention. I had one that I cannot believe.
That's crazy. I was there and didn't put that one on.
Yeah, I thought for sure that was going to be on yours, especially after you defined your criteria, because I knew you were there. Jones Gustafson Part 1 was not on any of our lists, and I can't believe that. I rewatched it last night, and I gotta say, not as good as I remembered. Not as good as the hype.
I rewatched it too. I was like, what?
I thought it was a lackluster performance by Jones.
It was. And he still totally won, by the way. There's zero question in my mind that Jones won that fight. Gustafson could barely stand up by that. Like, if that was a 6-round fight, Gustafson would have gotten finished for sure. But it was good. I'm not acting like it was a bad fight. It just isn't all I think it's cracked up to be. And I'm a huge John Jones guy, by the way. So that's me saying that. Sanchez Guida was there, but didn't make the cut for me. Edgar Maynard too. And here's the one that I wanted to shout out that I had in my top 5. I was telling Danny Palm before the show, I'm like, I'm literally putting this here just to make people say, what the fuck? What? But I ultimately couldn't, because even though I do think it's debatable. Nate Quarry versus Tim Crater from UFC Fight Night 19.
Was that the Running Man?
No. But that was Nate Quarry involved. That was Caleb Starnes.
Yeah.
Dude, Nate Quarry versus Tim Crater is Duo Choi versus Cub Swanson or Gastelum versus Adesanya with 2 guys that even less people know. But if that was 2 bigger names, people would talk forever about that fight.
So let me ask you this. Is it, I mean, that was the same era. I would think that it would be equivalent with, the clear difference in the maturation of the sport, like where they weren't showing a lot of technique and a lot of striking prowess, but they were dudes that were going to go throwing leather.
Yeah. And also Crater was known mostly as a pure BJJ guy. Like, he was a great grappler. And then he got thrown into this firefight with Corey, who could crack and was known as like a knockout artist, like a stand-up guy.
He was on crack?
He was on crack. That's why he could. That's literally why Crater couldn't finish him.
I thought it was just Chris Lieben.
Oh, dang.
No,
I'm not Lieben catching strays.
Dude, I'm a huge Lieben fan.
Yeah, me too. I love Chris Lieben. I also had a bunch more, but I'm going to save some for Danny Palm that he probably had. I had Jim Miller versus Joe Lozon Part 1. Insane UFC 155 fight of the night. Probably the bloodiest fight of all time.
Yeah, maybe.
Way up there. And then I also had Dustin Poirier and Dan Hooker.
So the only honorable mentions that I really had written down on my list that I didn't include were two that you talked about, Jones Gustafson and Clay Guida and Diego Sanchez. And then this one actually was on my list. I took it off this morning. Gilbert Melendez versus Diego Sanchez. I love that fight.
Yeah, it was real good. And I
yes,
I loved Diego.
Yes,
Sanchez. And I told Danny, and it never really crossed my mind until we started doing this list. But Sanchez was like Gaethje before Gaethje. Like, he was always the guy that was just always in entertaining fights, never the best in the division. Nobody even thought so. But what he lacked that Gaethje had that kicked it up a notch was the finishing ability out of nowhere. Like, if Diego had sick knockout power, he's that era's Gaethje. He's the closest thing that era had.
Gaethje has sanity.
Does he?
I mean,
I don't know about that.
I would definitely debate that.
He can have an intelligent conversation and not make you think like, what the heck is wrong with this guy? Whereas Diego Sanchez, you were always like,
yeah, I mean, he was a nut. Probably
as time progressed, he got nuttier.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
And the hanging upside down stuff.
that Josh Fabia guy that he was working with.
That dude's that was the one redeeming quality of Diego Sanchez.
I loved Diego, dude. I thought he was so fun.
I mean, I thought he was dangerous.
He was.
No, I mean, like, no, like
he inside and outside the cage for sure.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah.
Lucas asked if we're going to do a top 5 performances list next. Maybe we just might. This is really fun. Top 5 lists are fun for me.
Top 5 lists are fun. You know what else is fun?
I'm excited. Go.
Putting fights together.
Oh yeah, that is fun. Matchmaking's pretty awesome.
And that's what we're doing right now, folks. We are matching up Brawl in the Berg 23. Michael Jordan.
Wow. Yeah. Bippy Jordan.
So we have
LeBron, but whatever.
We have like 7 or 8 that are like pretty much locked up.
Mhm.
4 that are absolutely like signed on both sides, but like 3 or 4 others that are like
Verbal and waiting on one guy. Yeah.
exactly. And so we're allowed to do 14 fights. We have space for some more. We know who we're looking to match. So if you know someone that wants to be on the card, tag them.
Tag them in.
Not like
get that smoke.
Not like just randomly punch them, but like tag them on a post. We're going to be putting the poster out
probably
Monday.
Yeah, Monday.
Not today.
Monday for sure. Monday for sure.
Poster's pretty cool. I'm stoked about it. It's so different than all of our other posters that
it's sick.
I'm
excited to see if anybody gets it. Like,
well, you're just giving it away a little
bit, but not really. I just said, does anybody get it? Let's see. Speaking of that event, we got a comment. Any more news on the venue? After what I heard last podcast, I'm very excited. And my dad also chimed in saying number 23 was Mike Wagner, the Steelers safety. Not Jordan, but Mike Wagner, the more iconic 23.
Yeah,
that's
I would
awesome.
have never known that.
What a yinzer. Love it.
Yeah.
So any more news on the venue? Yes, there is more news on the venue. And the news is that there's no news. We still don't know for sure, but we will know sooner than last time we said this.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like, if we had to make a decision right this very moment,
yeah, it wouldn't be at the venue.
The next show would not be at the venue.
But we don't have to do that this second.
But here's the thing. Don't tell anyone this. But like, we haven't signed anything for the venue we're at. So we have a date locked up for a different venue, and we can't let that go. But if we can secure, being able to have it at the venue, then we're just going to do that. But here's the problem. There's a lot of things that we have to do. Tickets are like, everything's going to be different. The seating chart, the tickets, like all of that will be different. And we're going to get to a point where if we can't 100% say, and this might happen next week, if we can't 100% say we're good to go for the venue, then we're going with
yeah, especially when you guys see the fights we have signed. We got to get moving on announcing these because it's some pretty big ones. We want you guys to lock in that date on your calendars to be there and buy tickets. And
you should lock in your date now. And tickets aren't on sale yet because we don't know. Yeah, those are the problems we're dealing with. It's a good problem to have.
It is.
We'd love to have it at the new venue, but we're not at a point where
we can
the landlord can make that promise to us.
Right.
And so there's going to be a visit out there very soon, and we're going to take a look and have a conversation and try to determine that next week.
Yeah. So that's the update there. On this top 5 list, I forgot to mention, we are going to compile this into a reel and show our top 5 lists that you guys vote on. You'll have to let us know who had your favorite list, whose list was the best. And I would say Ryan's list was the most out there, the least traditional. I would say Danny's was the most traditional, and mine was somewhere in between. So I'll see what you guys think. I think all the lists were great. I'm actually pleasantly surprised that we had such different lists. I was worried we would all pick like 3 or 4 out of the same for all of us.
Well, and that's part of the reason why I was saying, like, after we decided to do this, I called Hunter and I was like, dude, what are we doing here? Like, what is the criteria? Like, and he's like, there is none. Just like figure out your list.
What does best mean to you? Yeah.
Exactly. And so I went with like, listen, if this is my list, then this is my list.
Yeah.
And so that's totally the direction I went. And which ones did I experience the most from? And yeah,
I did just realize I had an honorable mention that we didn't mention that deserves mentioning, and that's Shogun Hua versus Dan Henderson.
I'm surprised
Insane good fight.
Bisping versus Henderson didn't make it.
Wasn't much of a fight, but the moment.
Well, yeah, and there was the moment with Lesnar and Mir.
yeah, true.
That was a moment.
That was a moment.
One. I'm talking about one
for sure.
Yeah.
I knew the one. Yeah, that was the knee bar. That was insane. We should definitely do.
That was 100.
That was 81. I want to say the first.
Oh
one.
yeah,
the rematch, was 100.
Yeah.
We should definitely next. We can discuss top 5 performances, knockouts, submissions. What would you guys want us to do most next? We've all been, as you can hear from our list, we're more like Danny Palm keeps up with current UFC the best out of all of us. But for me, my knowledge is super strong from like 2009 to 2017. And then outside that, I'm hazy.
Yeah,
But,
I'm like 2000. I'm like 1995 to like
Windows 95
to like 20.
When did 247 start? Like 19?
No, even before that,
Oh,
it was.
really?
It started trailing off a little bit. Maybe 2015.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I would say like the Ultimate Fighter to 2015. So, but I did go back. Like you got to remember, there wasn't so much volume of UFC back then. So once the Ultimate Fighter happened,
right,
like
that's a good
you
point.
could go back and watch. Like I literally went back and watched all the stuff that I.
There was nothing in between. It was like just the pay-per-view. Like that's all to watch.
Yes, there were just a pay-per-view, and it wasn't every month. Like you had time.
Yeah.
So I went back and watched like the things I had missed in the 20s and 30s, like UFC 20 through 30s, whatever, and was able to like catch up that way. And yeah,
that's awesome. Some really interesting things about this list in general that I noticed as a trend. There, like I said earlier, nothing super recent. I think what's the most recent fight? Joanna and Zhang Weili maybe might be the most recent fight on any of our lists, and that one wasn't like last year or anything. Also, nothing super early either. Like none of the early UFCs got any love, and I put a little time into researching this list.
I didn't. I just thought off the top of my head.
I researched a bunch of other people's top lists just to be like, okay, what's consensus? What do people say is the best? Like, let's start there. And then I went back, like a lot of the early UFCs just didn't have iconic fights. Like it was that golden era. Like
the most iconic thing I think of is the Mark Coleman getting kicked in the face.
Pete Williams. Yeah.
Pete
Williams. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was insane. That was an insane moment for sure. And that was actually the one that most frequently popped up from that era. Hughes versus Trigg part 2. That's one that deserves a lot of love. I didn't watch it live, so that one doesn't mean as much to me. I know Dana always talks about that as like one of his favorites. Well, it's in the UFC Hall of Fame.
Back then, a huge fight was when Royce Gracie came back and fought Matt Hughes. Mm-hmm. That was like great, and unfortunately, like
Hughes destroyed him.
People were pretty Hughes absolutely.
I think I did see that one.
Yeah. I saw that live in St. Louis.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's so random.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
Well, this is back when I was driving for South Hills Movers.
Oh.
So
have you been to a UFC event live, Danny Palm?
Never.
Danny,
you've been to 247 shows.
Yeah.
You're fine. You're
same
fine.
thing.
You got it.
Same
well, okay. So we've both been to multiple UFC shows. What was your favorite UFC show you've seen live?
I don't know if it's just the show itself or like because it was like I went to the West Coast to do it. I think like I was at the UFC in Seattle with it was a crazy talented card with Nick Diaz versus Benson Henderson.
Ew.
It was
Nate
awesome.
Diaz.
Nate Diaz, correct. That's when I met Nick Diaz.
Nice.
Dude, me and Denise flew out there and
nice. Was that a UFC on Fox card, by the way?
It was,
or was that a pay-per-view number?
No, it wasn't a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
It wasn't a pay-per-view. That's part of the reason why I went, because it was like
cheaper. Yeah,
not as expensive.
That's pretty sweet.
But the card was. You look back at that card, it's like wow.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, for me, I've never been to a UFC event that I wasn't covering as a media member, so my
So you've never
experience is
gone as a
different.
fan.
Yeah, I've never gone as a fan.
What a turd.
Exactly. So my experience is very different. I'm working. I have different levels of access and things like that that are cool that make it, different. But for me, the one that obviously stands out, UFC 229, Conor versus Khabib, being a part of that entire spectacle and show up close and personal was like probably never going to beat that for me. Like, I don't know that any event will ever do that again, but there were some good ones. That one was definitely number one. The 205, the NYC show, Conor and Eddie was obviously way up there too. The Pittsburgh shows were great just because being at home and like the appeal of that. Yeah, but 229 for sure. Danny, we need to get you to a UFC event, brother.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Can we do a 247 like UFC field trip, like rent a bus and take a bunch of fighters and coaches and just all go to a UFC show?
And film it.
Like, they pay for it, obviously, but can we do that?
Sure.
Vlog it. Yeah. Yeah. Let's vlog it. Dude,
Dude,
that would actually be so fun. Like,
dude,
let's
look at this
do
card.
that.
Just look at it.
Wow. Gustafsson, Shogun. So this was, wow. Rory and BJ Penn. I forgot that happened. Dude.
Yeah.
That's a good
It was
card.
it was awesome.
That's a great card. Scott Jorgensen. Wow, I forgot about him.
He was fight of the night.
He was fun.
He was fun. This is back
He had the
when
best
fighters
looking-
made like 10 grand.
Yeah.
8 grand.
There you go. He had the best looking. Jorgensen's tattoos had the best color ever because he had a skin disease where he had no pigment in his skin. So it was like these color tattoos that just looked like they were so vibrant because they were against this, like, even a whiter background than I have, which is hard to imagine, but it
That was-
exists.
12 years ago.
I was gonna say 22. It was, so what was it? UFC on Fox 5? What was the number?
5.
Dude, why do I remember random?
Because you're
When you cover it and you write like 8 articles about that show, it sticks.
you ate the articles?
Oh yeah, dude.
That's
You have to.
weird.
Instead of the dog, it was either me or the dog. Anyway, our top 5 list, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna, like I said,
What
we're
was
gonna
your
recap
favorite event that you covered?
I said 229.
Oh.
Conor Khabib. It's impossible to beat that.
Impossible.
Like, how are you ever going to top that? You're not.
It would have to involve Conor.
But I was at that Brooklyn show when he threw a dolly through a bus. I was literally in the lobby when the team stormed through and like went down to the bus. We
Did
were
you
like, "What's
follow
going
them?
on?" No, the UFC wouldn't let us. Their staff.
They let them.
I'm not saying it was an inside job, but I'm saying if you were there, it probably might have been for publicity. I'm just saying.
Well, I would argue
I was
that
afraid to
some
say
of the
that.
people that are that had glass shattered in their eyes
Would disagree.
would disagree with
Well, I mean, there's casualties of these things. There's people that aren't in on it, and there's people that are. But these things happen in MMA. Anyway, I couldn't say that at the time because I was really worried about my credential getting stripped. But now that I don't need to worry about that, yeah, I think that was planned. Anyway, good times. We'll recap our top 5 list for you guys in a reel after this. We'll make a big video with a post, and you guys vote for who has the best list, and whoever has the best list will win a prize of some sort that I don't know what it will be yet, but let's see who knows MMA the best, who knows UFC the best, who has the best list. We'll determine next week on the 247 Combat Sports Podcast. We'll see you guys then. Thanks for tuning in and for all the comments and engagement. It's super fun. Could talk about UFC all day. Peace out, ladies and gentlemen.
Cheers, bye. Cheers, bye. Woohoo! Why'd you mute?